Let's give it up for him. I believe we can do it better.
Shall we bow down our heads as we pray? We are praying. And so, Lord, we give you glory. We thank you for the gift of life. Father, we commit our meeting into your hands. Come and take absolute control. Let everything we do here be to your glory. Let it be a successful program. In the mighty name of Jesus have we prayed. Amen.
Thank you very much, Reverend Doc. I believe we can give it to him one more time. We shall now be inspired by the University of Cape Coast anthem, a reminder of our shared pursuit of wisdom, truth, and service, the UCC anthem.
Shall we all rise, please?
Thank you, UCC Choir, for that uplifting rendition. Ladies and gentlemen, to officially welcome us and set the tone for this intellectual journey, we invite the Dean of the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences Education, who is a visionary academic whose leadership continues to shape the faculty's direction. Ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, shall we welcome Dr. Eric Mensah.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, good morning. Thank you very much for coming. The Provost of the College of Education Studies, represented by the Dean of the Faculty of Science and Technology Education, Professor Kofi Ibiata. Other provosts invited, deans of faculties and schools in the College of Education Studies, former deans of Tvucc, the vice dean of Tvucc, former vice deans of Tvucc, heads of departments in Tvucc, the keynote speaker, Dr. Tando, special guest, Professor John Nelson Boa, Professor Isaac Gallion, the regional and metro directors of education, heads of senior high schools, senior colleagues, students, my friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen, once again, good morning. It's with immense joy and deep sense of pride that I welcome you all this morning to this historic occasion, which is the maiden public lecture series of the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences Education. Indeed, today marks the beginning of a noble tradition of intellectual engagement, dialogue, and knowledge sharing that will undoubtedly enrich our faculty, the college, the University of Cape Coast, and the Ghanaian society. This faculty began as a department of Arts and Social Sciences Education in the year 1972. And we've had notable people to lead the department as heads of department, including Dr. Esiedua Krofi, the late, including Dr. J.E. Afo, including Professor Nafale Sakifio, and also including Dr. Ikwa Techua Mwasechi, Professor the name is gone, it'll come. Now Professor of IEPA, Professor Ankoma, was also a head of the department, and also Reverend Professor Seta Saredanso, Reverend Professor Kankambuedu, and Reverend Professor Kofi Chivanroyiboy. So in 2016, the department now became a faculty when the university went a 3-tier. And since then, we've had 3 deans before me, namely Professor Kofi Yiboy Chivanyo, Professor Cosmas Kobold, and Reverend Professor Kankambuedu. We've had vice deans before today, Reverend Professor Seta Saredanso, Professor Cosmas Kobold, and Alhaji Professor Mumuni Idana. These past deans and vice deans, I must say, laid a solid foundation for what we see today in the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences Education. And I'll plead that we all give them a round of applause. Ladies and gentlemen, public lectures are not merely academic events. They are platforms for bringing scholarship into conversation with the lived experiences of our communities. They embody the very spirit of humanities and social sciences disciplines that seek to understand the human condition, interrogate our values, and propose pathways for building just, inclusive, and also a progressive society. This maiden public lecture series demonstrates our faculty's commitment to innovative teaching, quality research, meaningful outreach, and professional development. It is a manifestation of our faculty's vision to become a leading faculty in quality educational research and students' academic growth. Therefore, we seek to provide leadership and inspiration in teaching, research, outreach programs to promote learning and human resource development for our country. This faculty public lecture series, which forms part of my strategic vision, resonates very well with the faculty's vision as well as the university's vision. Today's lecture has come at a time when in our country we are debating the double track system. The issue requires, for me, I think this issue requires interdisciplinary thinking, devoid of political rhetorics, critical reflection, and collaborative solutions. Now, it is our hope that this lecture, with the topic, what the double track system taught us in terms of scale, in terms of learning, and in terms of policy endurance, I think that it comes at the right time and it will spark conversations that move beyond the walls of this institution, inform policy on the issue. There will be a roundtable discussion after the keynote speaker has given the lecture, and this will give us all opportunities to contribute to the discourse. I want to express my profound gratitude to our distinguished guest lecturer, Dr. Kwabena Bempatando, whose expertise and insights will set the tone for this series. I'm equally grateful to the Provost of the College of Education Studies for his support, Deans of the College of Education Studies, all guests here, students, alumni, friends of the faculty, and I can't forget my faculty members. They have been very, very supportive. Today's public lecture, being the curtain raiser, is going to set the platform for the faculty's quarterly public lecture series. And I thought we were going to clap for ourselves. Quarterly public lecture series. This means that every quarter, we're going to pick a topical issue in Ghana and set the debate. We want to take the leading role when it comes to the debate, because when it comes to teaching and learning, I think our faculty leads. As we inaugurate this lecture series, as faculty members, I plead with you that let us commit ourselves to keeping it alive as a continuous platform for scholarship, dialogue, and transformative action. May this first edition be remembered not just for its novelty, but for the enduring legacy it begins. On behalf of the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences Education, I warmly welcome you all, and I invite you to actively participate in today's proceedings. Together, let us make this series a beacon of knowledge, inspiration, and social impact. Thank you and welcome.
I believe we can do it one more time. Thank you, Dr. Mensah, for that inspiring welcome and leading this academic milestone. It's now time to introduce the chairman for this very important ceremony. And ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and pleasure to introduce to you the distinguished chairman for today's public lecture, Professor Kofi Ayebi-Arthur. Professor Ayebi-Arthur is a professor and senior member of the Department of Mathematics and ICT Education at the University of Cape Coast. He currently serves as the Dean of the Faculty of Science and Technology Education, where he provides visionary academic and administrative leadership, nurturing innovation and excellence in teaching, research, and community engagement. A scholar of high repute, Professor Ayebiatha, fields of specialization include computer science, e-learning, and ICT education. His academic interests span across digital citizenship, e-learning innovations, and integration of ICT in educational practice, reflecting his deep commitment to harnessing technology to transform teaching and learning in Ghana and beyond. Over the years, he has served in various academic and administrative positions, participated in numerous international and local conferences, and received recognition and awards for his outstanding contributions to the field of ICT and education. He is also an active member of several professional associations where he continues to promote the advancement of technology-enhanced learning and digital literacy. With his vast experience, intellectual depth, and proven leadership, Professor Ayebiatha stands as a true inspiration for both faculty and students, and a leading voice in reimagining education for the digital age. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me with a resounding applause as we warmly welcome Professor Kofi Ayebiatha, our chairman for today's public lecture. And I will welcome Professor Ayebiatha up here to give us his response. Please, another resounding welcome to him. I believe we can do it better.
Good morning, everyone. When the MC was speaking, I think I was talking about somebody else. It's great to be here, great to see everyone, and exciting that this new activity is occurring in the College of Education Studies. I have a speech prepared. I don't know whether I should read it or not. So, following the lead of the Dean of the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, all protocols observed. So, it's a pleasure to welcome you to the maiden public lecture and roundtable of the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences Education. I deem it an honor to chair this important session, which addresses the thought-provoking theme, Beyond the Numbers, what the double-track system taught Ghana about skill, learning, and policy endurance. I congratulate the faculty for convening this timely discussion that invites us to move beyond the numbers, to reflect on what skill meant for learning, what the policy revealed about our system's capacity, and how we might build policy endurance without losing the ambition that inspired the reform. Let me also commend the Dean for this laudable initiative. Within the College of Education Studies, we believe that such academic dialogues strengthen our collective identity, not only as educators, but as knowledge producers whose scholarship shapes national discourse on teaching, learning, and professional practice. This lecture reminds us that our university is not merely a center for instruction, but a community of inquiry, continuing redefining its relevance to society. It challenges us, both faculty and students alike, to rethink our roles as educators and researchers committed to national transformation. I assure you that the college will continue to create avenues that nurture academic leadership, mentorship, and innovation. The country's commitment to free SHS education, evidenced by the implementation of the free SHS policy, has fundamentally transformed access to secondary education. When free SHS opened the door to countless young Ghanaians who had previously been excluded, the ambition was noble and the scale remarkable. According to the Ghana Education Service, schools implementing the multi-track calendar admitted upwards of 30% more students than their previous capacity. This double-track system thus emerged as a pragmatic innovation, dividing students into two tracks, green and gold, so that existing infrastructure could serve more learners. In other words, scale was pursued as a justice imperative, seeking to ensure that no qualified Ghanaian child was denied education due to space constraints. However, as implementation unfolded, the policy raised not only rhetorical questions but operational ones. These centered on teacher preparedness, continuity of instruction, quality learning, and policy endurance, all of which became pressing under shifting calendars, cohort rotation, and infrastructure stress. As an institution that prepares teachers, these issues bear deep implications for teacher education, research, and practice. I therefore invite us to embrace a balanced vision, one that celebrates expanded access to education while safeguarding the quality, equity, and institutional endurance that give meaning to access itself. Indeed, the double-track system has taught us that scaling up is both possible and necessary. Yet, it also reminds us that scale without quality, support, and coherence may leave students in school but not necessarily in learning. Again, it has also shown that policy improvisation must quickly evolve into structured policies with built-in roadmaps, data feedback systems, teacher supports, and clear exit strategies. It has likewise reinforced the need for continuous collaboration between universities, researchers, and policymakers to form a feedback loop of evidence, implementation, and refinement. This partnership is essential if we are to translate policy ambition into sustainable educational impact. Now, representing the provost of the college, he says that the charge to the faculty is, let your scholarship serve society, your research build evidence that informs and influences policy, and teachings empower a new generation of teachers who are intellectually grounded, socially conscious, and professionally adaptable. And to our students, let your preparation equip you for context of change, constraint, and skill. Let your enlightenment and your engagement with education educational systems be both critical and constructive, acknowledging progress where it exists, identify challenges where they persist, and collaborating across disciplines and institutions for the long haul. Ladies and gentlemen, this lecture and roundtable provides a vital platform for reflection and shared learning, one that bridges policy, research, and classroom practice. I'm confident that the conversations we begin here today will not only end here, but will continue to shape our collective thinking on education reforms in Ghana and beyond. It is my privilege to declare this maiden public lecture and roundtable of the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences Education officially open. I urge all participants to engage deeply and thoughtfully in ensuring discussion.
One more time for our chairman. Thank you very much, Professor Kofi Ayebiatha. Now, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time to turn our attention to the keynote speaker for this very important ceremony. To help us introduce the keynote speaker, shall we welcome Dr. Mrs. Dorcas Pearl Slip. Oh, let's save her with another round of applause.
Thank you very much. All protocol observed. Kindly permit me a minute or two to read out what I have put together on our keynote speaker. I have tried my best to apply all my summary skills, yet it's quite a load of information, so kindly permit me. I'll be very brief. Our keynote speaker is Dr. Kwabena Bempa Tando. Dr. Kwabena Bempa Tando is a distinguished and results-driven educational leader with a 25-year career spanning high-level policy, academia, educational and public administration, as well as vast systemic reform across the United States and Africa. His influential journey began with a robust academic foundation, earning his Master of Social Work from the University of Connecticut and later a PhD in Higher Education Leadership and Administration from St. Louis University. During this period, Dr. Tando held key academic and leadership roles, including Program Coordinator and Head of Department at St. Louis Community College and Director of Multicultural and International Affairs at Millikin University. This early experience honed his expertise in institutional advancement, student development, and the operational governance of diverse academic environments. Demonstrating versatility in educational governance, Dr. Tando applied this administrative acumen to corporate education as the Executive Director of Schools for Anglo Gold Ashanti in Obuasi, Ghana. During his tenure, he delivered strategic oversight that resulted in significant efficiency savings, including an estimated $1.2 million in operational optimization. Critically, he successfully established and launched the Williams and Brew School as a University of Cambridge accredited institution, showcasing his capacity for both strategic transformation and operational excellence in private educational systems. Transitioning his expertise to the continental stage, Dr. Tando's career accelerated into national policy and large-scale implementation. His tenure as the Deputy Director General for Quality and Access at the Ghana Education Service from 2018 to 2025 were 7 impactful years, and this stands as a defining period of achievement. In his crucial role, he provided strategic oversight for over 40,000 public schools, managing the quality and access outcomes for the entire pre-tertiary education system. Dr. Tando was instrumental in Ghana's national reform agenda, serving as the chief technical officer for the design and execution of the double-track school system under the Free Senior High School Policy, a pivotal initiative that drastically expanded access to secondary education for millions of students between 2017 and 2024. Furthermore, he was the technical lead on the $218.7 million Ghana Accountability for Learning Outcome Project, GALLOP, a major undertaking that involved critical negotiation and partnership with the World Bank. His influence extended to developing the National Education in Emergency Policy and innovative GES PLC app to enhance teacher professional development across the country. An expert in monitoring, evaluation, and learning system design and evidence to policy translation, Dr. Tando consistently leverages empirical data to inform and drive actionable policy. His ability to negotiate and secure donor funding, coupled with his diplomatic skills as a representative to the World Bank, GPE, and UNESCO, underscores his significant influence on global educational discourse. He has further lent his policy acumen as a principal technical advisor for the education reform in Kenya and on the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment, NACA, and the West African Examination Council, WAEC. Today, as the founder and CEO of the Orpington Group, Dr. Tando continues to provide elite strategic advisory services, cementing his legacy as a visionary leader committed to sustainable educational. Please, with a round of applause, kindly help me so that we welcome our guest speaker.
I believe we can do it one more time for. And once we setting up, I would like to seize this opportunity just before the keynote speaker addresses us to acknowledge the presence of some very important individuals gracing this very important occasion. We have in our midst Professor Vincent Asamfo, Acting Director DAPCA and Chairman NACA. Thank you, Prof. We also have Very Reverend Ebenezer K. Adu, Headmaster, Infantipim School. And I hope we all understand. Oh, let's give it up for him one more time. We also have Very Reverend Solomon Jamra. Thank you very much for coming. We have Dr. Kobna Tando himself, the keynote speaker. Let's clap for him. We have Reverend Professor Seth Asari-Danso, a former dean of this very noble faculty. Professor Isaac Galleon, former provost code. His twin brother, Professor John Nelson Boa, former pro-vice chancellor of this great university. We also have Professor Yedom Boachi, the Director General, IEPA. Thank you very much. And I will do the rest later. Now let's give it up for the keynote speaker one more time.
Thank you. Thank you very much, and good morning to all of you gathered here. It is my greatest honor to be here, especially because of the public lecture series, and this being the inaugural one. I feel the weight of being able to set a tone that hopefully allows the college as well as the school to become a leader But more importantly, I am just honored to be here because of the immense connection that I have with the University of Cape Coast. Interestingly enough, I have several connections to the university, one of which is that I am a current student at the University of Cape Coast, pursuing another PhD at the Institute for Educational Planning and Administration. And the Director General as well as the Deputy Director General are here. So I see this as the Viva before the Viva. And I would like to highly recognize the VC or the acting VC, Professor Dennis Aito, and the privilege of allowing us to have this. The Registrar, Gideon Enoch Abekwe, Esquire, Provost of the college, Professor D.D. Ajay, who happens to also be a friend. I worked with Professor Ajay closely when we were doing the curriculum between 2017 and 2019. He is an excellent mathematics educator. I would like to also recognize the representative of the provost, Professor Kofi Ajay Arthur. Thank you so much. Professor Kofi Ayubi Arthur. I'm sorry for that. And I'm very excited to also see that the chair of NACA, Professor Vincent Sanfo, is here. I served on NACA for about 5 years, and so I recognize the immense work that you do at the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment. Of course, I recognize the Dean, Dr. Eric Mensah, for his immense work. I appreciate the friendship. And I also recognize other deans, provosts that are present. I would like to recognize my colleague directors of education that are here present. And then, of course, recognize Professor Seth Asare-Danso, who is the Presbytery Chair at the Buakwa. And of course, I am immensely happy and honored that very Reverend Ebenezer Kobina Edu is here, my own very good friend, and the reigning champion of the National Math and Science Quiz. So we salute you very much. But most importantly, I would like to recognize the people that are the most in this room, and that's the students, because it is really an exciting opportunity to be here and to have this discourse and this dialogue with you. I would like to begin. I hope that you would have an opportunity to see the slides as we move on. But I would like to really have an opportunity to share with you what the double track taught us. And beyond what the double track taught us is really beyond the numbers. We do talk a lot about the numbers, and we know that in academic research, data and evidence and analysis of that data and evidence is very important. But critically, I am a storyteller. And so I believe in sharing this experience with you from my own personal experience through this period in our nation's education system. I am by nature a qualitative researcher, and I enjoy especially phenomenological study. And so I will be talking about this from the experience of that phenomena. And so I have decided to put this presentation into 4 parts. The first part I will discuss, I've called the crisis and the moral choice. And then we'll go on to discuss the unseen war, or the design and the approval of the double track system. Then I will go on to talk about the moment of truth, the implementation and what endurance meant. And then I will end by talking about the legacy, the learning, equity, and really what we learned from scaling. So I begin with this image of young, vibrant 13 to 15 or sometimes 16-year-old young men and women who sit for the BECE for an opportunity to move on to senior high school education with great ambition in their minds and in their hearts, and what that means. Now, in 2014, please, if I may ask, can we move this so that I can actually see? So in 2014, BECE registration in Ghana, we had about 422,946 students who registered as students presenting themselves to sit for the BECE and to have an opportunity to be placed into senior high schools. In 2015, it moved to about 440,469, and in 2016, it moved to about 461,009 students. On average, about 3.2 or 3.3% rise year on year between 2014 and 2017 on average. But in 2018, registrations moved from 468,000 to 521,710, representing some 11.5% jump, which is almost 3 or 3.1 times what our annual average increases were. Why did this happen? And that's the question that most of us would like to ask. There were a number of things that I believe contributed to this. Number one, 2016 into 2017, we had an introduction of free SHS into the country. That year, there was a low registration because I think that there was still this whole idea of, is it really going to happen? Is it not going to happen? But also there was a challenge that did not contribute to increase in this. One, because there was still a financial barrier. BECE registration was still a fee-paying registration. But between 2017 and 2018, there were a number of things that happened. One, students who failed the previous BECE, there was a policy change that they could go back to their junior high schools, resit Form 3 again, and then sit for the BECE. That created opportunity for those who did not make it in previous years to come back and resit the BECE. This was a policy that was started, mind you, in 2016 by President John Dramani Mahama. 2017, we didn't see it, but we saw that resets increased by about 1,000%. So we had resets of 2017 resets, about 1,100 students. 2018 resets, 11,400 plus students. Then the second one was that BECE registrations became free. So financial barriers were removed by President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. So those two things and the promise of being able to go to free senior high school increased our registrations by about 11.5% or 3.1 times more than what we see on an annual basis. Now, it is also important to understand that and to look at what free SHS, what SHS enrollment trends have been. Every year, 2014, we had about 273,152 students who enrolled in senior high school. 2015, 299,000. 2016, about 308,000. 2017, we saw a jump. So on average, enrollments were about 2.5% year on year. 2017, the first year of free SHS, we saw a jump of 17.1% in terms of year on year. That is more than 8 times what had been happening on an annual basis. So we anticipated that based on the number of registrations and based on the fact that every year when students sit for the BECE, the average pass rate is between 92 and 94%. We estimated that we were going to get a pass rate about 472,730 students based on the 521,000, which we had estimated about 95% pass rate. And that was going to be a 30.7% jump from 2017. So the question became, if you were going to have this and you are promising free senior high school and everybody comes to knock on your door, what do you do? We knew at that particular time that by the registration period in June 2018, when the analysis was done with WAEC, that there was going to be an internal crisis. What do you do? 472,730 potential students who would pass and be ready to go to senior high school based on our pass rates in the country. Then we knew that our available seats at the time were 290,737. These available seats actually were calculated based on the exiting Form 3s at the time, because they are occupying seats that they were going to exit. They were about 274,000 or 275,000. But we also knew that between 2017 and 2018, 13 new E-blocks had been completed, so they could come on stream. 15 additional private schools have been absorbed by government, so they could come on stream. Get Fund had completed some projects. Some 13,200 new seats had been created. So when we added it to the Form 3s that were going to leave, we knew that we had 290 seats. Out of our 290 seats and 472,000, we had an estimated 181,993 students who potentially will pass but will not be able to attend school if we run our existing calendar as is. So what do? We were at that crossroads, and we decide that almost 182,000 students who would pass would not go to school. We had been practicing that in this Ghana for a long time. We had a moral choice. We had been practicing what some people like to call pass no way, or the cutoff point. Cutoff points, if you are a student of educational history, is merely to ensure that our schools will be able, based on the number of classrooms we have, would be able to get the students into those classrooms, especially in senior high school. So did we decide that we're going to do the politically safe thing, pass no way, where the standards are maintained, turn away qualified students, and then, you know, what happened is that there is no controversy. There would not be any noise or anything. Or do we decide on access for all? We were also a country that were signatories and members of the United Nations, and for that matter, SDG Goal 4 was critical in terms of ensuring that we have access for all. And the government at the time had also promised free senior high school for everyone who passes. So, pass no way, of course, was a political option. And I will tell you a bit about what really happened with pass no way and why a decision was made not to go with pass no way. So then I would like to then move on to the design and then the approval. So basically what we decided to do based on what was happening was what Patrick Ewua called sweating your assets. The University of Cape Coast and some of our other premier universities are masters of sweating assets. You run sandwich programs when your buildings are free. You run summer programs when your buildings are free, and everything else. And if we would all think about it, prior to double track in 2018, all of us went to school in Ghana. Form 1 or first term was always 3 terms. Then we'd have a break, 2.5, 3 weeks of break. Then second term, 3 months. Would have a break, 3 weeks. Third term, if you'd remember, it was actually the shortest of the terms. It was actually about 2 months, 2.5 or 3 weeks. So in essence, our students were in school about 8.5 months a year. For 3.5 months, our classrooms in the senior high schools were sitting idle, unused, and everything else. So a decision was made that in order for us to be more efficient, let's transition from a 3-term system to a semester system. What a semester system allows you to do is to break your academic year into 4 quarters, because each semester is about 4 months or 16 weeks. So if you do 4 months, 4 months, 4 months, you actually have 3 blocks. But then each semester can be broken down into 2 halves or quarters. So that was the first thing we decided to do, so that we can maximize the utilization of our existing infrastructure. Then what we decided to do was we decided to then run our existing infrastructure on the idea of sweating our assets full time. Sweating that assets full time and using our facilities when they should have been sitting idle. So basically, we did that and decided to come up with a double track. And the double track, as we all know, there are so many things that happen with the double track. People call it the traffic light system. People call it a more bar. We don't know what is happening and everything. But really, we decided to do the green track and the gold track. So when the green track is in school as the first cohort, they utilize that facility. Then we plan a transitional period or a track switch period. Then the gold track will come to school and utilize the facilities that the green track has exited. And then the cycle continues. So it was a year-round process. I think it is important for us to understand that if you want to see how the double track system really works well, your best bet is to understand how we use our public transportation system or our Tvucc system. I'm not very familiar with the Cape Coast environment, but I would at least try to give you a picture of it by using between Cape Coast and Accra, because I understand certain points. We have a Tvucc or a bus that has 30-seater capacity. It is loading from Cape Coast to Accra. It picks its 30 passengers. In Mankasim, 5 passengers decide that this is the end of our journey, so we are going to alight. Does that bus or that Tvucc go empty? That Tvucc would utilize the 5 empty seats and pick those 5 people. By the time they get to Apam, another 5 people decide they want to get off at Apam. But there are passengers in Apam going on the way. They get on that Tvucc. They get to Winneba, another 5 get out. 5 passengers from Winneba heading to Accra will get on. They would also get on, and the Tvucc will alight everybody in Accra. That 30-seater Tvucc or that 30-seater passenger bus has served 45 people. Everybody for the destination they are going to, everybody for the purpose for which they need the space in that Tvucc for. And basically, double track, our thinking was, we have 181,993 children who potentially have passed. And if they have passed, why should they stay home if we can be more effective in sweating our assets? Now, the thing to also understand is that in doing that, you are going to have challenges in terms of what happens to the teachers, what happens to everything else. And even if any country in this world, including California, that ran a multi-track system in the early 70s into the early 80s, for about 10 or 15 years, they ran a multi-track system. California is the 4th richest economy in the world. When they moved from 3-year senior high school to 4-year senior high school, they did not have the resources to build enough classrooms immediately. So they used a multi-track system. So no country, even discovering in June, can build the classrooms needed for September. So we introduced the double track. Now, what is the double track? So the definition of the double track is that it is an intervention that allows schools to accommodate more students within the same facility. And it is often motivated by the potential to reduce overcrowding as well as save costs in a relatively new school construction in the short term. If we were to say, let's build, it may take us 5 years, 7 years. At that point, you have so many students that you wouldn't have allowed to attend school. Now, one of the things that we need to understand, because when you look at the definition, it is almost an oxymoron. You are admitting more students, and then how are you saying that you decongest? In theory, in practice is something different, right? Based on motivations. But this is it. The objectives of the double track are: 1, you create room to increase enrollment; 2, you reduce class sizes; and 3, you increase contact hours, and I'll talk about that a bit; and then 4, you increase the number of holidays for everybody, which was a big thing, especially for our teaching staff. And all of this is achieved in our existing infrastructure. So one other thing that was clear is that when the decision was made about double track, the decision was made that it was going to be a temporary intervention until the needed infrastructure was put in place, and that not all senior high schools were going to be on double track. At the time of the introduction of double track, under the Ghana Education Service, we had 696 senior high school and senior high technical schools. 400 of the most desirable schools were the ones that we operationalized double track in, and about almost 300 schools run a single track semester system calendar. So this is how it works. In a school with a capacity of 3,000, our proposal was that we were going to, and which is say distributed evenly, 1,000 Form 1s, 1,000 Form 2s, 1,000 Form 3s. It's a capacity of 3,000. The school is at its brim. Our proposal was to increase in a double track calendar the Form 1s by 50% to 1,500. But then your Form 2s and 3s, you won't touch. They're already in school when that happens. So it's a 50% increase. How do you fit 3,500 students into a capacity of 3,000? It is basically what we call mathematical efficiency. Because in a double track system, at maximum, if it runs efficiently, you would have 2,750 students at your maximum point. And then basically, it is a smart resource allocation. So this is how it works. 12-month calendar year, month 0, month 2, month 4, month 6, month 8, 10, and 12. So in a year round, you don't really have any period of time that you don't have students in school. And so we divided it into first semester, first 6 months, second semester, second 6 months. Your SHS3s, remember they are 1,000. So you don't touch them. So they come to school for 4 months, uninterrupted. Then they go on vacation. Then for the second semester, they come for 4 months. And what we did there at that particular time was to say that we would have enough space in the school. And because they were final year students, we could bring them to school for another month and a half because they were preparing for their WATC. And then they'll go on vacation. So you have your first 1,000 seats filled. SHS2s, same thing. They come, they go on break, they come, they go on break, and then that's that. That black line there signifies an Easter break. So now you have 2,000 seats filled, but you have enrolled 1,500 Form 1s. How do you do it? Your green track and your gold track. For your first 2-month quarter, your green track are in school. Your gold track are home for what was called a 12-month cycle, their first vacation. In your second 2-month period, your gold track comes to school, the green track begin their first quarter vacation. By the end of 4 months, Form 3s and Form 2s have left their seats and their beds. So the green track who had gone on their first quarter break comes to school for the second 2 months. They actually end the semester with the same 4-month academic work with the gold track who have stayed 4 months. So in your first 6 months, you have used your 3,000-seater facility to accommodate 3,500 students learning at different points. And if you look at it, every 2-month period that you can see on here, there is no more than 2,750 students. Here, the first, you have 1,000, you have 750. Because 1,500, you divide them into 2. 1,000, 750. Here, if you don't bring your Form 3s back, you actually only have 1,500 students to finish the first semester. So you have room to bring your Form 3s back to do some additional intervention before they go and write their WASI. Then you repeat your cycle in the second 6 months. And ladies and gentlemen, basically, this is what we try to do with the existing infrastructure to accommodate more students so that none of the 181,993 students will stay home. Sweat your assets in the short term. But there were a number of things. Double track didn't just do this. There were actually 4 key things that the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service attempted to do. One was to have better collaboration with our development partners around completing more infrastructure. 2 was what was called Get Fund securitization. So every year, Get Fund has a statutory fund that comes to it to support educational infrastructure, building, and other interventions. Now, the idea was that you take about 25 or 30% of Get Fund's allocated resource, which was at the point about 1.5 billion Ghana cedis. Take about 4 of the 1.5 billion Ghana cedis, 4 years period, you have about 6 billion Ghana cedis, which at the time was equivalent to about $1 billion US. Then you take it to the bond market. You securitize it, so you don't spend it, but you take it to the bond market to look for resources immediately to begin projects so that you can gradually dial back on the double track system. Now, to do this, obviously, you needed to ensure that the work was done. I was privileged to actually be the chief technical officer to design the double track, but to also work very closely with the decision makers and to try to help them to understand the technical side of the political decision they were making. So there were some very, very deep discussions, and I was absolutely privileged to actually be in cabinet for some of their deliberations and decision making. And while everybody who attends cabinet is sworn to secrecy, there are certain things that are not protected by that if nothing is going to be revealed. And what I can tell you is that it was a fierce debate between the members of cabinet as to what to do with the Ghanaian children. And for me, what stood out for me was one particular thing. The only time I'll quote an individual in this whole thing. It got to a point that a decision was made. Do we do pass no way? And then we don't have any noise in this country. We are still running our free SHS for those that we have space for. Or do we move and give access to all? And the President of the Republic at the time, not that they said, I was there, and he said something to the effect of, the problems of Ghana are enormous. And if the decision to do double track was going to make him a one-term president, and here the 3 dots that I put in there was that he actually said that the problems of Ghana are enormous, and maybe there might be a child in some corner of this country who needs 3 additional years in front of a teacher to be able to have the opportunity to be more innovative. And if allowing that child was going to make him a one-term president, he would be happy to be a one-term president and know that he allowed more children access to education. That was President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Not that anybody said, but I was in the room when he said that. And I remember writing it down because I felt it was the most impactful moment in making the decision for double track. Why did I want to share that with you? 1, because there was a lot of political risk. And one of the things you need to understand is that in any policy you are implementing, in any government, past governments and present government, in my own experiences, my academic, I used to teach courses on politics and policy, because policies are not in isolation. You must understand the politics of that policy. So one of the first things to understand in terms of what double track did was to understand the political risk. Ministers warned of backlash from parents, and we all heard. Backlash from parents, teacher unions, and I can tell you some stories about that. Opposition parties, which is normal regardless of where you are in this world. President George Bush, when he became president of the United States, started something called No Child Left Behind. The Democrats were beating him to the hills for No Child Left Behind. So you would definitely have pushback from opposition parties. And then, of course, you think about implementation challenges, which we had plenty implementation challenges. So there are political risks. So it is usually a safe choice to just do a pass no way. Then there is also, for me, my observation in that room, what the moral choice and the moral clarity was. That the president made a decision that even if it cost him, he would do it. Because in his own estimation, the cost was too high to allow 182,000 children to just stay home. And I remember the question in the ministry all the time was, whose child should stay home? Out of the 472,730 students, whose child should be among the 181,993? We couldn't just go and say, you have passed, but you, dear, your pass is not good. So this one who has passed should go. You have passed, but your father is Kwadwo Mensah, so you should go. No, whose child should stay home? So there was a moral clarity. And then a decision was made, and the cabinet made a decision as the president pushed, and then at that point it became a unanimous decision. That's when they also put a lot of pressure on us that you people must go and deliver. But beyond the war room, there was also the street war. Because now you needed to have an opportunity to explain this to, at that point, some 32 million Ghanaians or 31 million Ghanaians about this new semester system, which is novel to them, and then to talk about the fact that we're going to have a double track system where some kids will go to school at some particular time. In the university system, it makes sense. Universities run sandwich programs, distance programs all of the time. But it has not been in our education system at this scale. And so we also had to deal with the street war. And in that street war, our mantra was always the same. No qualified child should be left behind. Now, we did a lot of radio blitz across the country, running around the country and doing a lot of radio interventions. Then we actually, of course, also did a lot of television interventions and everything else. But one of the things that was very impactful at the time were the town halls. And we went at that point to every region in the country, trying to explain to anybody that would listen what this meant for the Ghanaian child. Cognizant of the pressures, cognizant of the fact that some people would just not understand why their children would have to wait for 2 months before they go to school. But while the public skepticism and criticism was fierce initially, we were also relentless with the idea that, at least as far as we were concerned at the Ghana Education Service, no child who has qualified should be left behind. So then the moment of truth, we went through all of this, the approval was given, go and implement. And we actually began with what we always know in Ghana, the human infrastructure itself. The technologies are there, all the other things are there, but the human infrastructure. So you are saying that you are going to allow some 181,993 students to be in school. Who is going to teach them? So we did an analysis, school by school by school. You were still headmaster then. And you sent your scheduling officer to Accra. And you sent your director of, your assistant head academic to Accra. And we did a school by school by school analysis. And in our school by school by school analysis of both the double track schools and the single track schools, we realized that in order for it to happen, we needed to employ an additional 8,872 teachers to make it happen. Some additional almost 2,000 non-teaching staff to also make it happen. But the first human infrastructure was understanding what human resource was going to be needed to make it happen. And we did that school by school. Then, of course, in that period, just like he sent his 2 staff members, almost 700 schools, we trained some 1,400 staff in a school by school basis to understand it within 10 days, because we also didn't have much time, but we at least had the human infrastructure. Now, what is that? This, beyond the numbers, it wasn't just hiring people or the hiring statistics, but it was about a systematic work that was done not by one person, but by every school that was involved to come up with what we needed to do. And then also understanding that we needed to also do capacity building of our infrastructure itself. So because of the double track, the Ministry of Education and the Ghana Education Service instituted some 1,132 new infrastructure, classroom blocks, dormitory blocks, administrations, dining halls, and everything to make sure that all of our schools were going to get to the capacity to be able to dial back. Then in terms of the implementation, I want to tell you a personal story, which I call the 5 a.m. firefight. For those of us that were close to how the double track was done, when the placement system begins, we go to the placement center. Usually, we rent a place, we go with the IT team, and then we go to figure out how to do the placement. So imagine me, Chief Technical Officer. I'm sitting with the placement officers, the IT people. They've done all of their thing. We've decided how it was going to be done. And that after you have done the placement of schools, you need to randomly separate all students into gold and green. And this was going to be a random work that needed to happen. We had done everything. I went to bed around 4 a.m. And I remember it was 5 a.m. when the then Minister of Education and his team arrived at the placement center. He went straight to the IT room. He saw that the placement was done, but the students had not been split into green and gold. Placement was supposed to go live at 9 a.m. that morning. The first call came. I slept at 4 a.m. Mada, Second call came. I didn't pick up. Then a banging on my door. My boss, Professor Kwesi Opokwa Mankwa. Tando Asemaba. Implementation challenges. These are the things that we don't tell the public. So I jumped up when that 5 a.m. call came. The problem has been detected. In a few hours, we're going to go live, and we don't know who's green and who's gold. So 5:15, I was asked, what are we going to do? Right there, I said, get me the phone numbers of the 400 heads. You remember my call? By 5:30, I personally called every headmaster to discuss with them which students are gold and which students are green. Because when they opened their system at 9 a.m., they were going to see basa 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 in the system. 400 headmasters. 5 a.m. I started the calls. My brother is here and he remembers my call. We called, so basically we activated a human intervention for a technology challenge. By 9 a.m., our crisis had been averted. And as we were calling them, we were also working with the team. So the headmasters were fully prepared for the mess that they were going to see at 9 a.m. But by 9 a.m., we had been able to speak to every headmaster. Luckily for us, because the calls began at 5:30 in the morning, people were usually still in bed, waking up in the morning, so they were by their phones. They were not in places where their phones were somewhere. And we got a 98% call, success rate in terms of our calls. So in any policy that you are implementing, you need to understand something. That when technologies fail, you need to be able to understand the commitment of the people behind the technology. And how that is going to help you to be able to avert any disaster. So when you are implementing a policy, as you are thinking about all of the strategies and everything, you need to think about the people behind whatever you are doing in terms of the policy. So that when it fails, you know exactly what you're going to do. I am a big fan of aviation. And one of the things I like about, I used to work for Pratt & Whitney, which is an airplane engine manufacturing company. So I've loved aviation. And one of the things about aviation is that until January 2025, when something happened in Washington, D.C., you almost never hear of mid-air collisions. One, because there is a system that actually allows planes to speak to each other. That planes are able to speak to each other even before the pilot knows that a plane is in sight. So there's a technology system. And when two planes speak to each other and then they calculate their own speed and direction, they know if they will collide before even the pilot sees the next plane. And the planes make a decision without the pilot that I am going to fly 1,000 feet higher, you should fly 1,000 feet lower, so we avert a collision. But there are instances where that may fail. And when it fails, if a pilot is flying a Boeing, in a Boeing, there will be no information for the pilot, but the pilot will feel it in his control arm, a shaking in the control arm. And that will tell the pilot to make a decision, do I go up or do I go down? In Airbus will actually inform the pilot on a screen. But at the end of the day, with all the technology, it is the commitment of the humans behind it that averts mid-air collisions. So what I want to submit to you is that regardless of the policy that you are pushing, you need to understand the commitment of the humans behind it. And the leadership lesson here is that even in complex systems and everything, you need to have backup protocols that are able to get beyond your complexities and everything else. So then I go on to my final part of my presentation, which is the legacy, the learning, Then I'll talk a bit about equity and scaling. So one of the key things about the double track, and if we all remember, there was a lot of conversation around whether or not it was going to affect quality negatively. I happen to be the person that was responsible for quality and access. Double track is about access, allowing more students to go to school. If there are students in here, most of you are double track students. But then there is also the quality aspect. When you get all of these students into school, you're going to have problems in terms of quality, discipline issues, all those things. So there were some systematic things we did. Number one, we actually increased the amount of contact hours. And because I'm in a university environment, I am so happy because you understand it. You have students who come here for 4 months to do a semester. And then you have students who come here for 2 weeks to do a sandwich. You grade all of them equally because in the sandwich students, their contact hours are 8 a.m. that morning to 5 p.m. that evening for 1 whole or 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 1 month. And for the students that you teach in a 4-month semester, their contact hours may be 2 hours or 3 hours once a week. At the end of the day, regardless of the length of time, you in academia know that it is about the quality contact time between a teacher and a student. In our 3-term system, we had 180 teaching days in an academic year. Each of the 180 teaching days had about 5.5 to 6 hours. We worked with the teachers and with our heads and everybody, and we said in a double track system, our teaching days, because we are moving from the 8.5 or to about 8 months, our teaching days were going to reduce by 18 days. So we're going to have 162 teaching days. But we agreed with the teacher unions to move our contact time to at least 7 hours a day. And we also agreed to move our periods and now not have double periods and have 1 hour period. So more intensive time in front of a teacher. So we actually increased, even though the number of days decreased, we increased our contact time in a 3-year cycle by 162 days, which was the equivalent of 54 days per academic year. Now, so we moved from 1,080 contact hours in the 3-semester system to 1,134 contact hours in a semester system in double track. So the first thing we did, which a lot of us need to be able to at least avert our minds to, is that even though the period of time in school was short, the time in front of teachers was prolonged. So then that allows you to be able to ensure that students will have more quality time. It's not the only thing we did. We did a number of things during that period. We also did something that we call the academic intervention grants. We sat there and we said to ourselves that if students are now going to have this pressure on them, for some of us who went to school, I'm still quite young. I know some people are far ahead of me. But I went to school in the very early 90s, and then that's when we went to senior high school. And if we all remember, even until now, when we are in school, those that kakrawo those that have a bit more resources, one of the things we will realize is that they will do some maybe what you may call some nachiga moves or something. They will speak to teachers. Pachoyana, studies were happening in our schools. So we decided that we'll sit with the teacher unions and we'll beg them that please, instead of studies for those whose parents will pay, in a free SHS system, you have a lot of children who are coming to school, and because financial barriers have been removed, their parents don't have the same financial resources. So we introduced an academic intervention grant for every child. It was to pay every child an amount of money so that the teachers can plan with their heads and have a 1 hour academic intervention for all students in the school. So we intentionally looked at how you improve contact hours. All of you now know that in a free SHS system, what we also did was to ensure that at least for the core subjects, every student had a one-to-one textbook. For the elective subjects, it wasn't that way, but for the core subjects, all students had one-to-one. We were also intentional, because of the double track, to do math and science training for our teachers. And then we also did core subject training, and in the core subject trainings that we did, we usually use the WAEC chief examiners as our resource person so that they can help teachers to understand. And then a lot of other intervention packages were given to students, including past questions, which generated a lot of noise. But if you're a student at the University of Cambridge, you can buy past questions from 1940 all the way to 2025 before you go write an exam. So why is it that students in Ghana cannot get past questions? And we all know, me, I bought pamphlets because my parents had money. But how about a child whose parents does not have that same money? So past questions was also produced and given to students. Now, quality. And we can have a passionate discussion about the other things that we want to call quality, which is also very important. But we all know that when the free SHS and especially the double track was coming in, the complaint about quality was about the learning outcomes. Omobe free school, not omabong. But we also do know that quality is measured in that sense by the WASI. Now, if you want to measure quality in the WASI, it is also important to understand that based on WAEC's own analysis and the data that is available, every single student who goes to senior high school will sit an English language, integrated science, mathematics, and social studies. So this becomes the benchmark for how we can measure quality. Now, because I'm also in academia, it is important to understand that we are able to measure year-on-year quality because WASI is a criterion reference and not a norm reference examination. In BECE, it's never easy to measure quality because in BECE, go and check, every year it's only 4% in every subject who get one because it's a norm reference testing. So in terms of the 4 subject areas, and this is a university and we do know that it is when you get a pass rate that you're able to get admission to university. I have taken a 10-year data to help you at least appreciate whether or not quality was impacted negatively. So we start from 2015 to 2019. 2015 to 2019, what is important to understand is that all that cohort of students were not free SHS students. The first set of free SHS students wrote their examinations in 2020 during COVID people. During COVID, the first group of students who also wrote their examinations in nose mask, and I always laugh at them about that. And then I actually highlighted 2021 onwards blue because that's the first cohort of the double track students. So based on the data and on the WAEC exam results, 2014, 3 out of the 4 subjects, students, the pass rate for the core subject areas were well under 50%. Which means if you are to look at it, in the 2015 university cohort, no more than 28 to 30% of students can be admitted by the university because they have so this was the pass rate. So this was the maximum number of students from the WASI that year that universities could admit. Admit. So if you look at it all the way through to 2020 or 2019, you see that there were always years where we had less than 50%. But from 2020 and 2021, where the double track students began, you see that the pass rates really improved. And that is because of all of the interventions. So I will be very quick in talking to you about the equity machine because there was a lot of noise around the 30% equity, which is now 15% based on Supreme Court ruling and everything else. But for us here in Cape Coast, we know that most of the Category A schools are in Cape Coast. And the idea of the equity was actually made based on what at that time we called the public school, the catchment area equity. But in 2017, when an analysis was done, we realized that almost 92% of the students who were in the Category A schools like Infansipim, today you'll be my example because you are here. In Infansipim, almost 90% of the 30% catchment area were actually not from Cape Coast. They were wealthy people from Accra and Kumasi who could pay to use the catchment area to get their children into Infansipim. So a policy decision was made that Infansipim is a government-assisted school and is for all Ghanaian children. So instead of the catchment area, we would make it for children who went to public school in any part of the country to benefit from that catchment area. Nothing was changed in terms of the policy. All that was changed was to say that a child from my hometown of Goso, or Esumra, or Kasape, who does not have any Category A school close to them, could also get the opportunity to go to Infansipim if they perform among public schools. So that's all that was done. So that was the equity design, and it was about breaking geographical barriers and then leveling the playing field. So now I'm basically done my last two slides here. So basically what we did with a double track, its implementation was in 2018, and then between 2019 and 2022, we started infrastructure interventions. By 2023, we started to dial back in terms of schools that were doing double track. And as a matter of fact, we dialed back to what was called the transitional system, where no cohort was broken by green or gold. And then the goal is that permanent infrastructure will be in place. Now, one thing I want to help you to understand is that about 181,993 students over the 7-year period that I was Deputy Director General meant that we allowed some 2.7 million students to have access to senior high school because of the double track intervention, had it not been for them, even without additional infrastructure. And then it is also about strategic vision. So what does that mean in terms of policy? And this is my last slide in terms of the lesson. It teaches us three key things that I would like to talk about. One is the political courage, that regardless of the government, regardless of any policy you are pushing, you need to understand that you are going to face some political backlash, but you need to have the political courage to make a decision that, you know, there is going to be electoral risk for an intervention, but you need to choose effectively. And in this case, it was about children's future rather than political expediency. Two is understand your technical agility. And the fact that when challenges face, you need to quickly look at creative problem-solving strategies that would allow you to maximize your risk, because no country has enough resources. In this Ghana, we don't have enough resources. So how do you ensure that you have technical agility to be able to face any policy you are introducing, and especially when crises happen in those policies? And then number three, is to understand that it has to be an inclusive intervention. You need to be transparent. People will knock you and everything else, but you need to engage everybody else. You need to be very deliberate with all of your stakeholders, especially in education, your teacher unions, and even in terms of engaging, where do the students go after? And so I know questions will come and we'll talk about that. So my biggest thing is that this is actually something that most African countries will need. I was a chief technical advisor to the government of Kenya because of their new curriculum they were introducing and the fact that they were going to get a point that 2 cohorts of students were going to meet in school. And Kenya knew that they were not going to be able to have the money to build the infrastructure. No African country, if they are going to do SDG Goal 4, would have enough infrastructure to really accommodate all students. So, double track is one of the things that in the short to medium term, if it is done effectively, look at the implementation challenges and the lessons from Ghana, you can use to address the issue of access. And then if you look at some of the things we did try to figure out how you also manage your quality issues. Thank you very, very much.
Oh, let's do it one more time for our keynote speaker. Now, I think we have soaked quite a number of issues, and as we allow the message to sink, I would like that we refresh our minds with a short musical interlude.
When I am down and oh my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart brings heavy, when I am still and waiting in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. I am down and oh my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burns baby, when I am still and waiting in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. When I am down and oh my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart brings baby, when I am still and waiting in the silence until you come and sit a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be. You raise me up stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on storm and seas. I am strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be.
Thank you very much. I believe they deserve another round of applause. Just before we get to the discussion bit of this very important program, Prof. Chair, may I crave your indulgence and acknowledge some key stakeholders who have joined and who have been present since the start of this very important program. We have in our midst Madam Eunice Mary Yeboah, Headmistress, Fetterman Senior High School. Thank you very much for coming. Madam Agnes Amoa, Headmistress, Trifohiman Senior High School. Thank you. Dr. Gladys A. Amoafo, Headmistress, Mozano Senior High School. Thank you. We also have Reverend Dr. Martin Ousu, Head of Department of Applied Economics. Arts Education, I beg your pardon. Department of Arts Education. I believe that it's more or less like some prophetic declaration, isn't it? We also have Dr. Anthony Akwesi Owusu, Head of Department of Business, Social Sciences, Education. Thank you. We also have Mrs. Alice Dazi Ochri, Faculty Officer. We also have in our midst Professor Joseph Tvucc Kwatin. Prof is with the College of Code, Head of Education Studies Program. Thank you. And we also have Reverend, or Very Reverend Franklin Edu, representing the Head Mistress in Fantiman Senior High School. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for us to get into the conversation proper. And I must say that we are streaming live on YouTube via TVUCC, and we have stakeholders joining us via Zoom. So at the appropriate time, we will ask them, or we'll allow them to also bring their input to help shaping the conversation. To help us moderate this segment, shall we welcome Dr. Mrs. Pearl Slip. Oh, let's give it up for her. I think she deserves another round of applause. And I would like to seize this opportunity to profile our discussants, very important and astute scholars within the confines of this university and beyond. And I begin with the very first discussant on my list, Dr. Edmond Kweku Agomeda, I beg your pardon. And Dr. Agomeda is a distinguished academic and senior member of the Department of Business and Social Sciences Education. He holds a PhD in management, an MPhil in curriculum and instruction, and a Bachelor of Education in Social Sciences, specializing in management and economics. He is also a proud recipient of the Jacobs Foundation Young Scholar Award, recognizing his outstanding contribution to educational research and leadership. Dr. Agomeda's research interests span across business education, curriculum and instruction, teacher education, teacher professional identity and development, as well as a skill development and psychometrics. A prolific scholar, he has indeed authored and co-authored several publications and presented papers at both local and international conferences. His work continues to influence educational policy and practice, particularly in the areas of teacher development and curriculum innovation. Please, let's give it up. Our next discussant, ladies and gentlemen, Professor Michael Tvucc. Prof is the Director General and Associate Professor of Leadership Development in Higher Education and Student Affairs at the UNESCO Category 2 Institute for Educational Planning and Administration, University of Cape Coast. He holds a PhD in Higher Education and Student Affairs from Ohio University, USA, as well as a master's and bachelor's degrees in Educational Administration from the University of Cape Coast. With extensive experience in higher education leadership, both in Ghana and abroad, Professor Tvucc has served as Dean of Students at Hiwassee College in the USA, Residential Coordinator at Ohio University, and Hall Administrator at the University of Cape Coast. He played a pivotal national role as Ghana's convener for the 2022 United Nations Transforming Education Summit in New York and continues to champion the use of research evidence to inform policy, practice, and innovation in education. His research interests include educational leadership and policy, student affairs, international and comparative higher education, and inclusive campus environments. Professor Tvucc's scholarly work and mentorship have had a global impact, and he was recently appointed a special member of the graduate faculty at the University of Maryland's College of Education. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Tvucc. And our final discussant, who I've been told that he wants me to keep it simple, so I'll do that for him. Dr. Isaac Atta-Queenin, a senior lecturer in social studies, and Doug is sitting in for Professor Tvucc. And let's give it up for Dr. Isaac Atta-Queenin. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the discussion.
Thank you very much. Let's dig in. But before we start, let's have a shared understanding of what the free SHS policy is all about and what necessitated its implementation. So the first question I would ask my discussants is, from what we have garnered from the keynote speaker's speech, from what we know as educationists, what were the most compelling reasons, the issues that necessitated? We have come to know about the crisis. Would you please share with us what really brought about the need for the implementation of the policy? We can start off with Professor Michael Tvucc.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much. And I must commend Dr. Tando for his excellent delivery of his presentation. But what struck me most was the moral component of his discussion. Whether to go political and create an environment where some students, potential students, will be denied access, or to pick it up from moral grounds. And I'll relate this to indigenous Ghanaian knowledge. Morally, to ensure that every child who deserves education gets in. And permit me to draw from some elements of our African Ghanaian indigenous knowledge. So there is a saying that, and this is a Gonja proverb, once they don't kill all the partridges before they plant millet. They don't kill all the partridges before they plant millet. Partridges, I'm told, are some kind of birds that have the tendency to destroy millet. And if you want to wait till all of them disappear, then you never plant millet. For me, it tells a story about problem solving. Finding moral ways to solve problems, because, I mean, if you relate it to the African child, Ghanaian child, the school child, that school child can't wait till we have enough resources to build schools, to provide all the infrastructure and all that. So I pick it from that context. Morally, we had a responsibility to demonstrate courage and find ways to make it happen. Innovation comes in, problem solving comes in, setting your targets comes in, but the most important thing is that they believe in the fact that no child must be held behind.
Thank you very much, Prof. I think we made a good moral choice of trying to give access to all. With the design and implementation, we have been helped to see that we needed to sweat our assets full time so that we are able to make the best use of the facilities that we have. And so the free SHS was a short-term to medium temporary intervention that was supposed to create room for increased enrollment. And my next question is, we are all in Ghana. In retrospect, would you say that the double track system solved the immediate problem of access for which it was designed? Dr. Atakwini.
Thank you, Doc. Let me also commend Dr. Pimpe for that insightful delivery. Yes, sweating the assets. In fact, all over the world, that has been the practice. Yes, and even in the university, that has been the practice. We have several cohorts, and that makes it possible to achieve whatever that we want to achieve. Yes, in the University of Cape Coast, we have regular students. They vacate, they go, the facilities are just lying idle. Nobody uses the facilities. So if there are other students behind, the other students that we don't want to leave behind, if there's opportunity for us to enroll them, for them to make use of the asset that is lying idle, then I think that was the best choice. Yes, so just as our keynote speaker explained, yes, so 3 months or 4 months, and then students are in school, they vacate for some 2 or 3 months. Why don't we make use of the infrastructure? Although the infrastructure is not enough, but I think at the time that was the best option that Ghana we had. Yes, and I think that was it. Thank you.
Okay, this also, thank you very much. This also, in line with the increased numbers, came class size and issues of contact hours. And how would you also say that the implementation of the double track system, a lot has been said about it. Do you think it was for the good? Have you seen improvement in how it was structured in terms of managing class size and contact hours? Dr. Agomeda.
All right, thank you. I must say we have seen a little bit of improvement or some improvement, but we can't say it's a perfect implementation. As the keynote speaker already indicated, there were implementation challenges, which them themselves as management and the policymakers are aware about. And as he rightly said, although there were not enough period in terms of number of days or number of months to be in school, they increased that contact hours, and there was that kind of academic intervention for grant for the teachers to do that, to also provide extra tuition for the students. So I must say to them, that is the mechanism or the intervention put in place to ensure that the students have full contact hours, interaction hours with the teachers in the school. So I think we can also commend them for that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. And another thing that was said about building the human resource base for the infrastructure. Since we are in the university and we are in charge of producing the human resource, I'd like to ask about the teacher capacity building. Administrators were also mentioned, in addition to the many efforts that are being made to beef up the human resource. Do you think, Prof, that there's more that needs to be done? Are we in line? Should we fast track?
We need to run, and run very quickly. Sometimes it appears it's just a Ghanaian phenomenon, and this is just about Ghana. But globally, we have a responsibility as a country. Agenda 2030. By 2030, 5 years from now, the expectation is that we achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, including SDG 4, ensuring inclusive and equitable lifelong learning. Quality is also in there. The available data seem to indicate that if we run at the same pace, Agenda 2030 will not happen. So the young men and women will say, time no day. We don't have time. We don't have time to spend too much time on the drawing table. We must run, and run very fast. And secondly, you talked about professional development, human resource development, management, and all that. It's true. As a university, we rely on students graduating from the senior high schools. Now, if the quality at that exit point is bad, the raw material that we receive is bad. And the 4 years that we spend to prepare students for the first degree, probably we may want to add one more year or one more semester, because if the quality is bad, Ghana Water is complaining. Quality of the raw water that they are getting, they are not able to do it well. It comes out through our taps and it's colored. So that is important. And that is why we need quality at that entry point for us and exit point for the senior high schools. That also means that we also need to spend time and resources on our own human resource development. We must find more innovative ways to support teachers in the senior high schools to be more innovative. Remember, characteristics of students have changed. When we were secondary school students, our behavior, issues of discipline, indiscipline in the senior high schools were not like this. How are we even preparing housemasters and senior housemasters, housemistresses, senior housemistresses, assistant heads domestic, who are managing the dormitories in the senior high schools? How are we supporting them to create living, learning communities in the senior high schools, in the dormitories? The dormitories are supposed to be areas where students are learning. What are they learning? Do we have programs in the dormitories, in the houses, that have specific learning outcomes that we know? Learning appears in the senior high schools to be limited to only the classrooms, but they spend a lot of time in the dormitories. They're indisciplined. Housemasters, senior housemates, I know, have no or limited skills and competences in even managing crisis in the dormitories. They have limited capacities and skills in developing programs in the dormitories where students will learn and acquire some skills from these programs. So you live, you sleep in a dormitory, you wake up in the morning, you have friends, you go up and down without targeted residential learning opportunities in the dormitory. And I say targeted because it is not targeted. I expect that housemasters and housemistresses will be supported to develop residential learning programming, so that at a housemaster or housemistress, you know that by the end of this semester, I have programs A, B, C to develop, design, and roll out in the house. And you also know that these programs have these learning outcomes. You evaluate them, you allow students to evaluate the programs, provide feedback to get better. In our own culture, we value feedback. The Ocha Senims and the church here. Even in the universities, who is evaluating us? Who evaluates the Vice Chancellor, for instance? Who evaluates the Director General of IEPA? Who evaluates the Dean? Who evaluates the HOD? We don't get that important feedback. So the point I'm making is that it is important that we look at the exit point at the senior high school level. Universities must be interested in this, because what comes out is what comes in for us. And we must be interested. When it comes to preparing students in Form 3 at the senior high schools, for instance, for university life, we must be interested. If they come better, it's easier for us to help to develop them. So I think I'll end here at this point, but I'll come back.
I like the fact that you introduced how we are supposed to integrate innovation into running the school system under the free SHS. You touched on, Prof, you touched on out of classroom management of learning outcomes, how we are going to make sure that we improve learning outcomes by managing out of classroom learning for students. How about in class? From the discussions we've had, class periods have been extended from what we used to experience, 35 to 40, and now an hour. I believe that is supposed to give teachers the opportunity to be very innovative, pedagogically innovative. What are some of the innovations that teachers can implement within an hour of teaching? That's a lot of contact hours. Dr. Atakweni.
Thank you. In fact, when you look at the picture on paper and then the picture on the ground, in fact, there seems to be a gap in terms of what happens in the classroom. The reason is that, in fact, I have had the opportunity to visit several senior high schools that are practicing the double track system. And you see, in fact, a lot of them do not have the students themselves. No tables, the chairs are not enough in the classrooms. Yeah, so in fact, it is a little bit challenge. At times, teachers are teaching, students put their books on their laps, which wasn't the case during our time when the double track had not been introduced. Yeah, so it is a challenge. So the innovations that must be introduced, I think that we need to go technology. Yes, technology. I know that the students have been provided, is it iPad or whatever? Yes. Tablet. Yeah, tablet. They have been supplied tablet. Yes. We should not always rely on the face-to-face interaction that goes on. We should as well integrate the technology. In fact, when you come to the universities, we make use of other means apart from the face-to-face. Yes. So teachers can make videos of their lessons, send them to students, and then even within the classrooms, they can form a team among themselves, so students could be made to at least create some teams that will facilitate collaboration and effective learning, sharing of ideas. Now, apart from that, I think that yes, the classroom situation, classroom conditions should also be made conducive enough to support effective learning. Yes, where we have overcrowded classrooms, students find it difficult to learn. Yes, and then we should also note that the contact hours have been increased, but are we also considering the teacher factor? the attention span. Teachers, in fact, the period of teaching has been increased from, is it 7? It was 8 to, let's say, 2. Now the period has been extended to about 3, 4, 8 to 4. So the question is, do the teachers have that kind of attention span to cope with the students throughout the day? Now, the number of days have been reduced, but the contact period have been increased. Yes, so we also need to look at it from that perspective. Teachers as well, I think it's good because the PLCs and other professional development programs have also been introduced to ensure that teachers are fully and adequately prepared to at least take the student through what they are required to do. Yes, so basically what I would say is that the technology factor cannot be left out in this system. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And I have something, yes. Let me bridge the gap from what Prof said and what my senior colleague also said. Prof talked about capacity building and talk about innovation in the classroom. But I think what the policy makers fail to do, during the long vac, you could hear teachers in the school say that their cohort is not in school. So they are not in school. That period, what intervention has been made for the teachers to do innovation? And I think that's a missing gap for the policy makers because that period is crucial for teacher development. So thank you.
Thank you. I have one here. Thank you very much. I will also, oh yeah, Prof, you can.
Yeah, so let me add. So we're talking about innovation through technology, which is great. But you see, we currently have a policy where senior high school students cannot use cell phones. Now, is it about the use of the cell phones or is it about the responsible use of the cell phones? My position is that we must teach both teachers and students how to use the cell phones responsibly. And if they get it, that is it. We are sometimes very irresponsible as adults with the use of our own cell phones, right? At top-level meetings in parliament, at council meetings, cell phones disrupt some of the things that we do. So we are equally at that stage where we are also being responsible. So for me, if you want to have a policy where we are going to use technology, yes, the tablets are there, but we also create an impression that these electronic gadgets are evil. Don't touch it. It's bad. But they tag them secretly. We know they use them secretly. We know they are using them. So my point is that let's educate them for them to understand that irresponsible use of these gadgets will not help you. And they will embrace it and internalize it. But that blanket policy with no education, you can use it, for me, it doesn't help in the growth and development of these kids. If the way to go is to use technology to drive innovation. We must relook that policy. I'm not saying that we should allow them to use them, but we must think through, find ways to educate them for them to understand why we are giving that directive. Blanket directive with no explanation. They don't understand why we are asking them not to do it, and yet they have to comply. It doesn't help with the growth and development of these students.
Thank you.
Prof, let me add to your words. I think I support that blank policy, which must be made clear to the student and to the teachers. And the teachers too must be empowered to ensure that the students are using the tablet for learning purposes. That is it. So if you don't give them that directive for them to know their left and right, then they'll be using the tablet for different things, which is it's not for the learning purposes. So I think there must be clear policy on the use of tablet if we want to go digital. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. We'll go for our last round of questions. The educational triangle, we have parents, we have teachers, and we have students on each side of the triangle. And we have been emphasizing on getting teachers to mediate the learning experiences, helping learners themselves be responsible, for instance, their use of technology. Why is the gap now, parents?
And with the design and implementation of the free double track system, the free SHS leads to the double track because now everybody is going to school, and the increased numbers with a gap of almost 182,000 comes number of holidays, extended number of holidays. In between being in school and going to school again, the students are in the house. How are parents mediating the learning experience whilst they are home?
All right, thank you so much. Is it for me?
Oh, everybody.
All right, no problem. Start. All right, thank you so much for the question. There is something that I call it a learning loss. The Europeans call it the summer learning loss, which is very critical. I don't know the kind of intervention being put in place by the policymakers to the parents so that when these students are in that vacation period and they are in the house, they are being engaged meaningfully in the learning activity. But we could clearly see the disparity between parents. Those parents that are a little bit well endowed provide extra tuition for their wards or their children. So those children are still in touch with learning. But those parents that are not well endowed and they are a little bit hardship with finance, they ask the children, go and sell, go and get these things. The children even want to get extra money for the next period when school resumes. So there's that kind of learning lost. And I feel like policymakers have not really engaged parents to let parents know the importance of the free SHS and double track and what they must do to ensure that the children are in constant or continual learning. So that children come back and it's like they forget everything. Teachers have to go back again and again and again. So I think there's that gap there, which policymakers must stand for that. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a very interesting question, scenario. Parents are very important in this equation, and we all know that. We have parent-teacher associations, we have parent associations that must play a role. What is the role of parent associations, parent-teacher associations? We go for meetings, there are dues to be paid, there are this to be done, But you see, if you look at the typical Ghanaian educational system, and you look at the basic schools, secondary schools, I think there is too much teaching. I chair the University of Cape Coast Basic School Governing Committee, and there's a letter before me from schools that classes must start at 7:30 because there is the need for early hour preparation and all that. After classes, some teachers will want to do extra classes after classes. When the kids get back home, there are tons of homework for them to do. Parents are becoming teachers in the house. I think that one of the roles of PTAs and parents is to ensure that teaching, learning, balance is fair. When you teach too much, it gets to a point where they are not even learning. And it appears that our focus sometimes teach. The kids are tired, and yet we are calling them to come and learn, to come go for classes. Learning is not happening the way teaching is happening. And as parents, we must have a voice in this conversation that you are killing the kids with teaching, and they are not learning. So we must teach. They get tired at a point. And when they get tired, teachers must know that the kids are tired and they need a break. And that is the reason why sometimes we have midterms. But even within midterms, sometimes they organize extra classes. And parents don't have time these days. So any opportunity to dump our kids on teachers, we will do that. But it's learning happening. And what impression are we creating in the minds of these children about teaching and learning? Sometimes they don't enjoy it anymore. My point is simple. We are over-teaching. We need to be sure learning is happening. Let us pause and evaluate teaching to ensure that teaching and effective learning have a balance. If you over-teach, it's a waste of time for everybody. You cannot keep the kids in school from 7:30 to 4:30. That is, at their level, that is unacceptable. And they are running from class to class, carrying the big bags, from here, it is too much, in my opinion. And that is why parents must come in. But again, parents are limited because we are happy the kids are out there doing their own thing, we doing our own thing. We are spending too much hours on teaching.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Prof. Yes, we are over teaching. Let me take it from the other side. We are also over learning. Yes, so in fact, there's a rationale behind break time, vacation, midterm breaks, and others. So I believe that once they have been taken through that kind of rigorous academic exercise, the learners must be given some opportunity to at least rest a little bit, to prepare their minds for the next academic activities. I remember, I think one of the vacations I picked my kids from school, and my little girl, as soon as she entered the car, she said, "Daddy, I thank God I'm free now. Now I can have enough time to sleep and to rest. We are no more going to do homework and then class tests and what have you." And I said, well, that is a short period. Yeah, so what I'm trying to say is that the kids or the learners, the student must be given some time to at least rest. Yes, because that will also prepare them for the next academic activities. And then we should also understand that in fact, Prof said, and I share in what he said, that when the students are in school, some parents are happy. But we should also know that for some parents, when their children are in school, because they need the services of these children at home, when they are in school, in fact, they also suffer. Yes, they suffer because some of these children, they assist their parents in family businesses.
Doc, a minute, please. We have Dr. Peter Antipate on the line, and he wants to give us a short comment. He has a very insightful comment he wants to give before we roll. I think we even skipped what he wanted to. So, Peter, please, you can go ahead. Hello. Hello, Doc. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. It's unfortunate that I couldn't make it to the panel as it was planned. In 2018, the first opinion paper that was published to explain the double track, of course, we know Dr. Tando is there. He understands the system better. We know that we hardly do policy papers on policies that we introduce in Ghana in the education system. But I took the opportunity to write an opinion paper that was used widely by people who wanted to discuss the double track, because at that time it was a new system and most people have not heard about it, and it created a lot of anxiety within the education system, as Dr. Tando has said. I believe that in that period, the best thing that we could have done was what was done, that we have to decide between letting people stay in the house or coming out with an innovative measure to ensure that students, everybody who qualifies to access secondary education is given the opportunity. And basically that is what the managers of education system did at that particular period in time. And for that innovation, we need to applaud them. Of course, there were serious implementation challenges, as have been mentioned by Dr. Tando. I think my view about this whole issue of quality is that one of the things that we hardly don't do in this country is to place policy within evidence, use evidence to support our policy positions. And I'm thinking that if data is made available, we should try and do an experimental study or quasi-experimental study to compare schools that were placed under double track to schools that were not placed under double track and see how their performance has been over the period that they were experiencing double track. I think that's one of the ways that we will be able to use evidence to really back the points that we are making. So in all, I think that the double track was necessary at that point in time. as it continues to stay within the system, it's generating a lot more challenges. And I think that the earlier we are able to get rid of it, the better it will be for our system, especially because of the long back period that is in there. Most countries that implement week-long, or what we call year-long education system or schooling would normally have this kind of digital innovations and constant teacher interaction among the students and between the teacher and the students, even when they are not on campus. Very good libraries in the various communities, and there is learning. I mean, there's continuous learning even when they are in the house. We don't have that in our country, and because of that, those who have money are able to get extra classes. I mean, get access to take their work for extra classes, and those who don't have use the period to undertake various economic activities. This leads to bridging the gap of inequality between those who have and those who do not have, and it affects their academic performance in the long run. So we need to do something quickly to be able to bring this to a level that we think will be better for all the Ghanaian students. Thank you.
Thank you very much for joining all the way from Germany. Peter, we are grateful. He's a lecturer in economics education. Thank you very much, Peter. I will let Dr. Atakwenin land. I'm sorry I had to cut him. And then we'll have an open forum. So if you have a question, if you have anything to say, we'll continue with that. Before we go to the last part of the discussion about policy endurance, look at the way forward, and then we can bring to an end. So, Doc, please land.
So thank you. My last point on that is that although Dr. Tando mentioned that parents, or there was a lot of education with regards to the introduction and the implementation of the double track system, but I think the education, public education must continue. Yeah, parents need to be educated. They need more education on it, although a lot of education has been done. Because if they don't understand the whole system, the policy, and then their role and how relevant they are in the implementation of the program, it will be very difficult for them to contribute to the entire program. So I think that parents need to, continuous education needs to be carried out. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. I believe they deserve a round of applause. So we get to enter the bit where we share our thoughts. There's an opportunity to seek clarification, exchange ideas, and build a better future for all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, may I remind all of us that we go straight to the point. You introduce yourself, your name, your affiliation, and then your question. Let us keep it brisk and inclusive. So the floor is opened. If you have any contribution, if you want to ask a question, and it includes, I see a hand over there. So we'll take 3 sets of questions. And so I pick the first, just close by the dean. Okay. The headmaster of the reigning school.
Thank you very much. My name is Reverend Ebenezer Yedu. My contribution here has to do with those who are lamenting that the double track has given students long stay at home. I disagree. You all know when you were in school, we used to have long vacation. Do you remember? From June up to what? September, 3 months. We are home. The difference is that during those periods, our parents, those of us who could attend classes, we attended classes. So it's not true that double track has given students to stay at home for far too long. It used to be there. There's no difference. What is happening now, I think, is that some parents are not being, the word responsible enough. They are not doing what our parents were doing when they were young. They lead the boys to their own thing. Some don't monitor what they do when they are home. So instead of learning, they resort to social media and things that are not helpful. I call on the parents of today that they should be intentional about how they control their students when they are home. They should control what they do at home. They go and they come back, whatever they've learned is gone because they did not continue what they're doing at school. They rather tend to do other things that are not helpful. So I want to appeal to all parents. Let's help our students when they come home. Now students will be at home and they'll be calling the school. As though they have no role to play, they have a role to play. And they must rise up and play that role because we together can make things better for our students. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. There's a hand closed by the dean. Yes.
Thank you. Dr. Bempa. Yeah, Tando. Yes. You have given us an insightful presentation and we are grateful. In fact, it has responded to some of the reflective questions I have been having concerning this SHS issue, that is the double track system. But one thing I think going forward we need to look at is, because we talk about holistic education, I didn't hear you talking about the non-academic aspect of it, because as Prof was saying, it is about teaching, learning, teaching, learning, teaching, learning. What about the other extracurricular activities? The discipline aspect of it, the guidance and counseling aspect of it, and what we call the sporting activity, extracurricular activities. Less attention have been given to that, and I think that some of the students whose potential lies in that domain are losing that. Going forward, I think we need to look at that aspect for we to get that holistic education we are looking for. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Right. Yes, the gentleman in blue over there. Yeah.
Thank you very much. My name is Osman Yaobedu, Headmaster for MENA TI and Media SHS. Mine is a submission on director's position on phone use. I think for some time now it has been a debate, and I am particular about it because this is a time we find ourselves, we cannot do away with it. But I always want to add that wherever we are making or we are taking a position on its use in school, we should be quick to add that the system should put in some technological controls. Because as far as I have read, I know that in advanced countries, these things are established. So it is guiding the student to naturally use it positively. But in our case, it is not. And so we should measure the extent to which we get into this debate and call for its use. Otherwise, some people say hazardous, because even the teachers themselves find it difficult to use it responsibly. I mean, some few days back, we heard that a teacher who was communicating with a student in a boarding house, apparently he has been pressuring the student, coercing the student into a relationship, and the student doesn't want it. So what the student did was that the teacher called, and she put the thing on loudspeaker, called friends to come and listen to, as a man, he was in that state of mind where he was saying all sort of things. So you can imagine that if we allow the thing, let them use. The tablets are in the system now, and my school has the opportunity to have a number of them. We have distributed it, but Prof, it has not been easy controlling it.
Okay.
You go and then the earpiece are already in their ears. They are listening to music. They are not. So I want to make that submission that we should look at these controls also. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's bring the microphone here.
Thank you very much. My name is Fiaomam Kofi Fiagbe, lecturer at the Department of Arts Education, FOSE, UCC. I have two comments and a question. The first one has to do with the double track system in our schools. And this is a comment. I've just returned from teaching practice, and I can assure you that the numbers have not gone down, despite the fact that we are implementing double track system. So if we had not implemented it, what would have been the situation? Actually, if we had not implemented double track, what would have been the numbers? So I want to suggest that we shouldn't be looking at double track system as a temporary measure. We should actually be thinking of it as something that is necessary if we want to ensure access and equity. That's my first comment. Then number two, technology. The 2004 education reform requires us to complement the face-to-face implementation of education with online and virtual. That's Anna Mohammed's education reform. But we have not done that well. I'm sure that if we were to develop content that could be put out to our students when we are back home, either on radio or on TV, we would have been complementing the face-to-face implementation of our education rather than just limiting it to the face-to-face. If we do that, I'm sure that we are going to go a long way to support our students even when they are out of school or they are not in our educational institutions. My question goes to Dr. Tando. Why would you take that decision to discriminate against students who are coming from our private schools, not to be part of the 30% equity? They are Ghanaian children, they are our own children. Would you consider going back on that policy? Thank you very much.
Right, thank you very much. So because he ended with Dr. Tando, I would like him to address it, and if our discussants have any comment, we'll also pave way for that. Yes, Dr. Tando.
Well, thank you very much. That was, I think, as I explained, what was happening, again, is the question of the moral choice or political choice. As I explained it, what was happening is all across the country, at that time we had 54 Category A schools in Ghana. 80% of the Category A schools, 80% of the 54 schools are about 75 or to 90 miles away from the coast of Ghana. Most of them are littered along the coast. And the policy at the time was catchment area. Catchment area, if you really look at it, that policy was still looking at the public school children in Cape Coast, in Accra, in Kumasi, in Ho. So just the students who are there. So all the policy did, yes, there could have been a different strategy, but the policy adjustment was that because that was being abused, where big men and women with access and resources were buying those catchment area policies and actually like keeping out the children from the communities, then what we were going to do was to just say a child from a Sumra or a child from Nkasim or a child from a Sansi Bontefufu should also have that opportunity, because there is no catchment area school, a Category A school in Goso. But there are children in Goso. What do you do about Category A school? So all we decided to do at the time, and it's not the best policy, but we felt it was an improvement on that policy, was to say, as long as you went to a public junior high school, usually those that will go to public junior high schools, if they had a bit of resources, probably go to private school. So we are not going to touch the private school, no. All we are going to do was to provide an opportunity for this system that was being abused, open it up to children from Tumu as well. And that's what we did at that particular time.
Thank you. Any comment, Prof. Dogs? Okay.
Please, A quick one.
All right.
To add to what Doctor said, I want to state categorically that those students who came from private schools had one some years ago, came with a 21, as against others who came with 6, 7, 7. When he was living, he made 7 A's. Even though we thought that a village boy, he was good. Just that he didn't get the opportunity of attending public school. So naturally, that boy would have been left out. I get 21 in a village. Yet when he was living, he made 7 A's. So that should be there, because otherwise you deprive either to boys or girls who are good, but because of the fact that they don't have, and they are still struggling at the public schools to be left behind. So probably going forward, that should be there. Maybe you also work with other authorities to help those in public schools as well. It's helping to bring others who we think cannot make it or making it at the end of the day to universities. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, Prof, the comment that you made about co-curricular activities, being too much focused on teaching. Something has started. So IEPA got some funding from MasterCard, and GES, it was Dr. Tando's time. His office helped us to identify 40 senior high schools. We brought them together. I don't know whether some schools here were part of the residential education in Fansipim, right? Yes. So we have designed a program training housemasters and housemistresses, senior housemasters and senior housemistresses, and assistant heads domestic to understand what we refer to as residential education programming. So it is ongoing. We are hoping to go beyond the 40 schools, but the goal is to ensure that housemasters and housemistresses run educational focused programs in the halls, in the houses, so that we know that for this semester we have 4 programs, this time, that time, and the other time, and these are the learning outcomes. After going through this program, we expect students to demonstrate A, B, and C, and then we evaluate. But we could only do 40 schools. We are hoping to go beyond the 40 schools. It was our response to the Ministry of Education, GES, concerns about indiscipline in the schools. And we believe that caning alone will not solve the problem. We need to take them through education for them to understand the implications of what we are doing. So something has started on a very small scale, but we are hoping that we'll scale it up to cover other schools.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Dr. Tando, thank you very much. One thing that we also need to note is that there should be continuous evaluation of the implementation of the double track system. Yes, continuous evaluation of the system will help a lot so that the loopholes, we could develop appropriate measures to resolve them or address them. And then Dr. Tando also touched on quality, equating it to outcome. Yes, in fact, can we also look at it from other angles other than the outcome of the BC? Because when we talk about quality, quality cannot be measured alone from outcome. Yes, so we need to look at other measures. Yes, other measures, important, very, very important, because in some schools, the students are overcrowded. Dining halls have been converted to classrooms, and then accommodation facilities. Classrooms, no chairs, no tables. Classroom, the heat is unbearable. Yeah, so when we are talking about quality, we should as well look at it from multi-dimensional angles. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let me add something to the mobile learning. In fact, the issue of technology in the classroom has come to stay, whether we like it or not. It is about us, the policymakers, to come out with a clear policy for the students and the teachers about the tablet use in the classroom. Proper mechanism, proper structures are being put in place so that after a section or a class, the student know that we are using it for this purpose, so that abuse use of that technology, we can stop it. So if we really, really want to go or provide technology in the classroom, then there must be clear policy for both the teachers, parent, and the student about the use of the tablet. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We pick the last set of questions. I haven't heard from any student, unfortunately. Okay, I see, okay, the hand, the gentleman, and the UCC attire.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Obri Ampem. My contribution has to do with, one, we increasing the teacher enrollment. Although we are doubling the number of students who are supposed to come and learn a double track, but then the teachers who are teaching, so I hear reports from some of my colleagues who are saying, I have taught from January to December without having a break. There are teachers who are passing out every year, and they are not getting employed to go and help ease this load. Although it may come to you that you, some teachers are saying, I don't have, because my track is on break or vacation. But some are overburdened. And so please, I'm calling on the government, let us please consider that, because the teachers are overburdened.
Okay.
Again.
Let's kindly keep it simple and straightforward.
All right.
All right.
I also think we need to consider those who we are employing in the university. I have the opportunity to teach those who pass out and get admitted in these tertiaries. And the performance are not encouraging at all. So what are we doing about it? Are we giving each and every one a chance to come? And at the end of the day, go and cause problems. Is that what we are interested? Thank you so much.
Thank you. The lady in, I am not really good with colors, but I think that is brown, cream. Yes.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I am Mavis, MPhil student from the Department of Art Education. My concern is with the evaluation in terms of the quality Dr. Tando talked about. I want to suggest maybe the assessments could be done between students on the green track and then those on the gold track. Because I see that those on the green track go for first 41 days and then another 40 days. But those on the green track go for 81 days straight forward. So for me, when I was in SHS, anytime I'm on vacation, I don't really get the opportunity to study that much because I'm interested in helping my parents when I'm on vacation. So I see that maybe students on the green track may not, I'm just suggesting, maybe they may not get the opportunity to have that learning time as compared to those on the green track. And secondly, in terms of the technology, I would like to suggest maybe if the tablets could be programmed in a way to contain courses developed for the students so that other features may be disconnected from the tablets so that could improve how the teachers would be able to manage how the students are able to use the tablets so that when some are listening to music, maybe those features could be disconnected. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Let's go over there. I see two hands. They will pick that, and that will be all.
Thank you. I'm Jacinta Bond, a PhD candidate for the Art Education Department. First is for Dr. Tando. In your speech, you said on the moral grounds, that was the best at the time. Yes, we know. But then did you consider, okay. You made some students day students, others bodies. Some students are coming from Asankrogwa, and the person is being made a day student in Cape Coast. I don't know, during the election, I know what is called catchment area schools, but all these are ignored and students are made day students coming from far places. Do we consider their moral upbringing? Because even those saying their parents have challenges, and like Prof said, there are some programs to monitor students after school, the boarding houses and all that. What happens to these day students? They have also been given tablets. Who monitors what when they go back to the school? Some students are really struggling because they are staying on their own. What to even eat at the end of school is a problem. Recently, there is a small boy, 14-year-old boy in St. Augustine's, a day student from a far village. He knows nobody in close. To eat 3 times a day is a problem for this small boy.
Okay.
What are we doing to support these day students coming from far places? Secondly, when it comes to sharing the national cake, giving infrastructure to schools, it seems some schools have totally been ignored. When there are there is a term I want to use. Let me go on.
Then let's use a simple term.
Okay. So when we want to test some policies, we mainly select the bigger schools, during piloting. We mainly select the category A schools, ignoring the others. At the end of the day, everybody is coming to the implementations covers all. During when the free SHS was started, some schools have not yet received any infrastructure development. What is happening?
Okay.
We should consider every school when we are sharing the national cake. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I saw a hand over there, just by her. Okay, quickly. Yes, Dr. Tando.
You make some very fantastic comments. And I think that, it really speaks to, and my friend here, I would like to speak to you after. You raise a fantastic research question. Are you a PhD student? MPhil. Do your PhD or even your MPhil. Let your thesis be on that. Were you a double track student? You were not a double track. It's a fantastic question to study gold and green track and see what impact it had on them. So you raise that question, sit with him, design a research question, and do that research because we would all like to learn. So I think it's very. My friend, yes, you also raised some very interesting comment. And the issue of these students, Headmaster even wants to help me answer. I left the Ghana Education Service on February 21st, 2025. When this placement issue happened, I was not at the GS. So it is something that I will not be able to answer or to at least tell you why that happened. But that's an issue that behind the scenes we're having some conversations about. What I can tell you, right, and I don't want this to dissolve or go into something else. The placement system that is used has what is called the catchment area school selection. And that is the only time that a student can select. At first we used to have a system where we prevented students from selecting from more than 16 kilometers from their home junior high school. Then there was always the argument that my child wants to go to Wesley Girls' Day. I live in Asankregwa, but my sister lives in Cape Coast. So my child will go and live with my sister. So there were some challenges in terms of trying to moderate. One of the ways to address that is really to improve our model schools and make sure we have a model school in every district so that people who want to do day school can at least have a high quality model school in their district. So those are things that nationally, as a policy strategy, we need to be able to do, and to also figure out where we are citing those model day schools. So those are, but you raise some very interesting questions there that I think it should further allow us to have some of those discussions around what exactly do we do around it. But then, my brother, you mentioned some very high quality comments around the fact that we need to look at quality beyond learning outcomes. And I really appreciate that. If you remember, even before I went into talking about learning outcomes, I was trying to answer the question of what we had always argued quality to be from the time double track was brought. Because at that point, nobody was discussing any other thing but that it was going to dilute results. And that is why my presentation focused on that. One of the key things I want us to also understand is that within our country, in our exercise of secondary education from the times of infancy all the way through the Achimota models into the Anna Mohamed Sarr reports and everything, we are a nation that does not have all of the resources. Me, when I was going to Prempeh College, I had to buy my own table and chair because they were collecting fees. So as part of paying the fees, I had to buy my table and chair. If I didn't have a table and chair, I won't have one to sit on, right? So let's not pretend as though we had, our system has always been yo-yo. And so we need to appreciate the challenges at the particular time. But I have always been a proponent of the fact that do not throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? Because if you do that, then you've hurt yourself. We acknowledge, and all of us, every system that we've had challenges. When the junior high school system came, I'm a product of JSS. If you remember how JSS came, President Rawlings at the time made a cry to private schools that if you would add a junior high school, I will supply you teachers. Right? And that's what happened. The challenge of the time was to bring private schools in to get JSS going. Our challenge at the time was to figure out how we sweat our assets to get more children into school. So I really like this dialogue, but we need to have that dialogue in such a way that we can tweak our system and make it much better. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, the very last lady, I saw a hand over there, and that will be our last for this session.
Thank you very much. My name is Dorothy Donko, a student at the Art Education Department. Mine is actually a comment. I'd like to thank Dr. Tando for his presentation. We've been exposed to so much information today, different from what we actually know on the ground. So I would like to just inform or implore that more education should take place for parents, teachers, students, everyone to know their roles to play when it comes to making sure that education takes place for our young ones. It looks like most focus or much of the focus has been given to teachers and students, and very little has been given to parents. Meanwhile, they play much role. The students we get in the senior high schools come from homes in junior high schools. So we are having issues talking about technology in schools because at home, parents are not regulating the use. There's no monitoring taking place, and everyone is leaving their burden on the teachers. So I think that as part of the news or educating the public, parents must also be made to know that they have roles to play when it comes to upbringing of their children. And it's not in the hands of the teachers or the schools alone. Even providing textbooks for their children is a problem. Some come to school because of free SHS without exercise books and notebooks. And if basic things such as exercise books and notebooks are problems, we can't talk about internet service for technology. So we need to start looking at some of these basic things before we move on to talk about other, enhanced ways of ensuring education. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. We're hoping to get some questions from our stakeholders who are joining us via Zoom. So we'll keep our eye on those following us on Zoom. There was a question about, and I don't know if our discussants want to address it, if you're okay with the kind of students we have in the universities and those who are churning out and the problems we may face out there, the teachers who go out there to teach our students, and the fact that there's a need for us to, yes, they need the laptops, the tablets, but we should have specific programs which they can't go beyond. And I'll take on that, Prof.
So I believe that the kind of student that we have is a reflection of the kind of citizenry that we have as a nation and as a sub-region and as a region. In all this conversation, issues of morality have not been discussed in the midst of the junior high school education, senior high school education, university education. How are we developing values-driven education? How are we developing values-driven citizenry? Values-driven citizenry will be developed through values-driven education. So to what extent is our educational system values-driven? And I think for me, that is important. Till we become more purposeful and intentional about learning outcomes in the classrooms that are around values, we will keep on having what we have, not only among students, but everybody. And I think we need to look at it, developing empathetic citizenry who have the heart. I mean, if you learn or if you know all the stuff that you're supposed to know and very competent in the area that you are studying and you are getting all the A's, and morally you are bankrupt, we will still continue to have a problem. So I think values-driven education for me is important. Empathetic citizenry for me is very important. And that is the only way. And it should start from class 1 KG. But you see, morality is also developed through observation. So if we are not role modeling what we expect our children to demonstrate, it will not happen. I mean, you can't tell a child to be truthful when he or she knows you are a liar. That won't happen. So they are observing us, and that is why it's important for us to be exemplary mentors and mentor kids in a school system. You are late to school as a teacher, and a kid comes to school late, and he or she receives canes. That is unacceptable. Thank you.
Yeah, let me add something small to what Prof said. Yeah, I think we should not only focus on the quality of student at the senior high school level. We must be mindful of the fact that if the foundation is weak, then the entire structure is weak. Yes, so attention must also be focused on at the lower level, from kindergarten, primary, junior high school. Yes, if we're able to produce quality students there, then we are likely to have quality students at the senior high school level and then finally at the university level. But my question is, what is the role of the teacher? Yes, what is the role of the teacher? If the students are not quality, they are not of high quality, what is expected of the teacher? Yes, we need to train them. We need to bring them in a manner that is acceptable. So that is more important. And then talking about the computer, the ICT, the phones, and then the iPad, and then the others. I think this is not the first time that we are using it or introducing it into this country. Other countries have implemented this successfully. The phones, the iPad, and other technological gadgets, we can calibrate them in a manner that would disable certain functions. Yes, and we can put them into best use. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a question that's coming from one of our students. he or she says that, is there any evaluation board? If there is, what do they do with the assessment they gather? I don't know what the evaluation in terms of the double track system. Okay, and the question is what they do with the assessment they gather. And I think that I will direct this to Dr. Tando. And I have another one maybe you want to add. If there is any consideration of the effects of free, I believe you want to say senior high school, on the falling standards of education, on the basic education. Yes.
Well, thank you. Can you repeat that question again, please?
The first one is if we have any evaluation board, and if indeed we have, what they do with the assessment they gather.
Well, thank you. At the Ghana Education Service, as well as at the Ministry of Education, at least under quality and access, we had a research unit where data is collected school level, regional level, district level, regional level, and the national level. And the information that is received actually contributes to policy adjustments and policy implementation. Let me give you one quick example. Around 2018, we collected data looking at WASI performance and how students were performing over the years. And then we also looked at the chief examiner's reports. And we realized that while the chief examiner's reports were being sent to school, and I put that in quotes, there seemed to be a gap between the teacher's understanding of the chief examiner's reports and how it manifests in the way they teach. So then, based on the data that we collected, we then decided to work more closely with WAEC to organize chief examiner workshops directly for the teachers. Rather than just the reports, a workshop where chief examiners would then sit with the teachers in cohort basis and to share with them what they are seeing in terms of what the students are doing. And one of the things that is actually interesting when you look at the chief examiner's report is they would usually tell you the topic areas that students tend to avoid. And so one of the things we then did was to do an assessment of our senior high school teachers on the key topic areas. And we also realized that there was a correlation between the topics that the teachers were uncomfortable with and the topics that the students avoid, because the teachers are not teaching it. So the students will avoid such topics, especially in the paper 2 and stuff. So then what we decided to do was to then support our teachers with the difficult to teach topic areas so that they can perform much better. You know, incrementally, I am convinced, and more research needs to happen, right? But incrementally, I am convinced with the correlation of the performance, that because we were collecting data and then being more targeted. And for me, when I became Deputy Director General, Professor Opoku Amankwa was my Director General, then Dr. Nkansa, then former Provost, Prof. Davis. Before I left, I served under 3 Director Generals. One of the things that I would always tell all my 3 Director Generals is that we don't have money. And because we don't have money, that is why my research unit was so important to me. Because then that allows us to understand who needs what. Instead of saying, oh, we have a math training, bring all the math teachers. We will do an assessment and realize 72% of our teachers are okay. So why don't we do targeted training for the 28%? It is why Dr. Boachi Adam, Prof. Fachemio, Bra Mike. It is why Professor Boachi Adam and we sat there and we said, you know, the challenge we are having, we were getting all these reports about indiscipline in schools, violence in schools, and all those things. And we decided that, you know what, let's go for some targeted training for residential education. So for me, that information that we collect, it helps us to decide how to make adjustments in our policies.
Okay, thank you. The second part had to do with the effect of the senior high school education, free SHS, and the falling standards in our basic education.
There was this argument that because government was focusing so much on senior high school, basic education suffered. But if you actually look at the allocation of resources, there wasn't a reduction in the allocation of resources to basic schools. But rather, because government wanted free senior high school, there was additional resources focusing on senior high school. But if I had more time, then I would have explained to you, especially around the entire cycle of the GET Fund securitization. The $1.5 billion was 3 tranches. Our immediate concern was senior high school because that's where there was a bulging of people going into senior high schools. The second part of it was to look at university infrastructure because you are pushing these students into university. Then the third part of it was to then come back and look at basic education infrastructure. So it was 3 tranches to look at senior high school, university, and then back to basic. But even before then, when IDA 18 came along at the World Bank, we decided at the time that the government of Ghana was going to ask the World Bank to give 100% of its target towards education to basic education. Under Gallup, I was the chief technical officer. And so we designed a $218 million intervention in basic education, the largest in education intervention in one tranche, all under basic education. And the reason why Gallup's impact may not be realized immediately is because it is also the first major World Bank intervention that are soft interventions. We are not putting up buildings for people to see, but it is about the soft interventions at the basic school, improving teacher learning, teacher understanding of curriculum, and all those things. So the Gallup's interventions was the government's way of saying before the GET Fund securitization gets there, the IDA money will go to basic and to support basic. So we try to think through, and I did a presentation called, hard choices. You have limited resources, you have to decide what to do. If we had unlimited resources, then obviously a lot of our challenges will be addressed immediately. But I think for me, as a policy implementer and also an academic, you have to make that choice. Where do I address? And what is going to have my biggest bang for my buck? And that's how we looked at it. It doesn't mean it was the best decision, but at least this is the rationale behind that particular process.
Right, thank you very much. And I would, at this point, hand over to Dr. Slip, and she'll wrap up with the discussion.
Thank you very much. We have enjoyed a very beautiful discussion, I must say. For me, I can say that, and I think you can say same too for yourself. The theme for what we have done today, all the discussions, was to help us to see lessons we have learned from skill, learning, and policy endurance and sustainability in terms of the double-track education system. I have heard a lot, I have learned a lot, and I'm going away with a lot. I am glad we had a student, postgraduate student especially here, to have this very meaningful engagement. Many of them are teachers because we are in the College of Education. So many of our students who come in for the postgraduate education are teachers. And we have had a lot of free research ideas and topics to work on. For skill, this is what I am going to see if I can grab 1 or 2 issues and work with. You can scramble with me. If you are fastest fingers, then you get it away online, and I will read yours. If I get mine also, you read mine. One thing we can look at is the correlation between skill and access to quality education. What are the critical lessons we can draw from the implementation of the double track system in Ghana and how it has managed to scale up access to education within such a short period of time? We can look at something like that. In terms of learning, what I have also drawn and can work on, you can also do same as well, is looking at the empirical evidence from WAEC. We can also have research. Dr. Anti mentioned having a quasi-experimental study. Mr. Tando has also talked about having a correlational study to look at the relationship between the evidence from WAEC and learning outcomes. You can also do that. And something I have also learned is to have a look at going forward, how Ghana can use the lessons we have learned from implementing this policy to build a more resilient and inclusive education model that balances access, quality, and sustainability. Thank you very much for being part of our discussion. We are grateful.
Oh, and I believe that our discussants deserve a round of applause, a big one at that. And thank you very much. You are relieved. We have indeed enjoyed every bit of this very important discussion. Now it's time for us to have the closing remarks from our chairman. And so with a round of applause, shall we welcome Professor Kofi Ayebi-Arthur, the chairman of the occasion, to give us his closing remarks. I believe we can do it better for him.
We started the program on a good note. Unfortunately, I had to dash out for an emergency in Kim. And when I returned, I realized a lot of things have gone on. It's like reading a good storybook and you realize that some pages are missing. So you have to guess what was in there and finish the book. I missed the part when there were things about mobile learning and whatnot, so I'll get that one. Maybe it was good I missed it because I have questions. I suppose we've had an enjoyable time with the presentation and then with discussions. At least now we have an insight on what the double track was about and why and how it happened and what we can do to improve it. At least currently I know that some private schools have been enrolled in and they said that they will roll it out. It was something done to solve a problem at a certain time. So the question is that, is the problem still in? And if it's still, how do we best solve it so that we can we move on to something new? So we thank Dr. Tando for the presentation. And also glad that he's also back in the university as a student. So we can always catch him. So to the audience, thank you for coming. Thank you for participating. I guess this was a good thing. The faculty has started something new, and we hope that we'll see the next quarter presentation with its topics. This is exciting for the college, and then we hope it to continue. My faculty also will follow. We'll be dubbing. Okay. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. And at this point, we invite the Dean for the faculty to give us a vote of thanks, or maybe thank everybody beyond the levels of this university. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nana. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think I was supposed to be here, but I have to. But I would like to Thank you very much for your time today, especially for postgraduate students and some undergraduate students who have taken time to be here. But as a tradition, for vote of thanks, we'll have to first thank the Almighty God for making this day possible. And also, I want to thank the Provost of the College of Education Studies, Professor Didier J, and also thank the Dean of the Faculty of Science and Technology Education, Professor Kofi Ayubiata, for stepping in for the Provost. Earlier on, we saw Professor Nelson Boa, the former Pro-Vice Chancellor of the university, and also Professor Isaac Gallion as well coming in to support. We are grateful. But more especially, I'm very grateful to my friend and brother, Dr. Kwabena Bempatando, for having time and taking time off. He's a very busy man, very, very busy man. But he said, hey, I would come and then set off this debate and this discussion. And also because it's the maiden public lecture of your faculty, I will do well to come. So, Senior, thank you very much. I want to acknowledge and also thank the faculty members of the Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences Education. Earlier on, we saw Reverend Professor Seta Saridanso here, who is my mentor. We also have privilege to have Professor Mike Boachi Adom, the Director General of IEPA. And we're also happy to have the Deputy Director General of IEPA. She will beat me if I'm not able to mention her name. Ama Sewa. Oh, my sister, today I'm dead. Sister, thank you very much for coming. We are also happy to have the acting director of DAPCA, UCC, and also the board chair of NACA, Professor Vincent Asamfo. Prof, thank you very much. In fact, I'm impressed because Prof has sat in from opening prayer till now. Prof, thank you. Thank you very much for coming. Let me acknowledge the headmaster of the School of the Moment. Reverend, thank you very much for coming. Also, the headmistresses and headmaster of senior high schools present. And am I missing someone? My A4 is giving me a signal, please. And also the HODs of the faculty and all members of the faculty. Students, my postgraduate students, I still am taking the attendance. I've seen Collins over there. I have seen Jacinta there. I have seen them. They made sure I see them, and I've seen him also there. Let me also thank Dr. Mrs. Gloria Kankambuedu of IEPA. She's there. Mami, thank you very much for coming. And in fact, my team from the faculty office, led by the faculty officer, Mrs. Alice Dazi, yeah, the Hindi of them. She will beat me. My accountant has worked so much, and my indefatigable faculty administrator, Mr. Donko. Yes, in fact, this gentleman, thank you very much. And all members of the faculty, not forgetting the organizing committee, chaired by the Vice Dean, who is away in Accra, Dr. Mrs. Pellslip, you saw her here. Dr. Nes Nyamiche, where are you? Dr. Nes Nyamiche is a member. Dr. Gabriel Kwesi Abuaje is also a member of the organizing committee. Thank you very much. Faculty members, thank you. I don't want to forget the discussant. Prof, I've appreciated you. Dr. Agomeda, thank you very much. Dr. Takwini, thank you very much. Tomorrow morning, when, as they always say, when you hear the cock crow, then it is Fosi who are saying thank you for coming. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dean. It's time to have the closing prayer. Shall we welcome Reverend Solomon Jamra to do that for us? Please, a round of applause.
Thank you so much. May we humbly bow down our heads for the closing prayer. And so, our Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for such a time, such an educative and insightful discussion. We humbly ask that may your Holy Spirit continue to be with us, lead us to make impact in wherever we find ourselves. We pray, thanking the presenter, thanking the discussants, and committing each and everyone in this room into your care. We are not leaving your presence. It is our prayer that whatever we have learned will go with us so we can make impactful decisions in every environment concerning education. Lord, be with us, and may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God, and the blessings, peace that we need be with us even now and forevermore. Amen.